Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, as promised, this Easter weekend, we're going to look at ways that you can speak better. And today, I'm going to begin with talking about shadowing. Now, you know that if you want to learn to swim, you don't get a book and walk around the swimming pool. It would be a little bit of a waste of time. It would be much better if someone came along and just pushed you into the pool. And then very quickly, you could experience the water and you could learn a little bit more, a little bit quicker about swimming. Speaking is the same. You can read about speaking better, you can imagine that you're speaking better, but unless you actually copy someone that you trust, then your speaking isn't going to improve. When we speak, what we hear in our own minds is not what other people hear. This is a little bit strange. If you record your own voice, you'll be quite alarmed. Even though I make this podcast every day, when I play it back to make the transcripts, still, even after all these years, I still think, ooh, do I really sound like that? Is that how other people hear me? Because that's not the same voice that I hear in my mind. So we're all a little bit confused about how other people hear us. And in a second language, it's worse because we don't hear the mistakes in pronunciation that other people hear. When we hear other people speaking, we tend just to copy them, but with our own accents. And as a result, it doesn't sound like it's supposed to. It doesn't sound so perfect. And even though you think that you're speaking in a second language, because your sounds come from your first language, many people might not hear exactly what you're trying to say. There's one easy way to fix this, and that's with shadowing. Imagine your child. How did they learn to speak? They didn't have books. They couldn't simply say, well, I'll buy a CD, I'll download an MP3 and learn how to speak properly. As children, they're more like your pets. They study you, they listen to you, and because they trust you, they imitate you. And when they imitate you, that's where they get their accents. They get it directly from the people around them. And also, of course, from the media, if they're allowed to watch a lot of television. So, let's move forward. How do you bring that into your daily life? Well, it's very easy. You simply have to take the role of a child. You switch off your mind. You don't think academically by studying words. What you have to do is take a step back and just like a game, hear someone speaking and try to copy them. If someone makes the sound wah, 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 and that's all you hear, make it. make that same sound. The problem is, if you get caught up in the meaning, then of course you're going to be held back. The idea of shadowing isn't about translating or thinking about meaning, it's about imitating, speaking in the same moment as the speaker, trying to repeat everything they say in the way that they say it. Now, that's a very different thing from trying to work out what they're saying and translating it. So, to begin shadowing, you need to switch off your mind. Forget about translating. Imagine that you're hearing the noise of something. It's a person speaking, but let's just not think of them as a person for a moment. There's a noise, and you want to imitate it. So you open your mouth and you try to make the same noises that thing is making. It's the very same with people. You don't think about what they're saying, you just try to imitate them. You try to copy how they sound. We did it when we were kids, when we were making fun of people. Oh, listen to that person speaking, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you still do it. Maybe you think, oh, English people, they speak blah, blah, blah. Well, it's time for you just to imitate that, to try to make the same sounds. There's only 50 sounds in English, and once you know these sounds, learning words and understanding things is so much easier. You can easily find sound charts and sound clips of the 50 sounds on the internet. My favorite one is on anti-moon, and you can Google that and find the sound charts I'm referring to. Those of you who've had lessons with me, you may well remember that it's a chart that I talk about. Getting back to shadowing. So, this is what you do. You don't choose anything special for shadowing. Some of you ask me to prepare texts. You simply listen and you repeat. You imitate. You don't need to understand anything. And maybe it's better if you don't. You want to switch off the academic part of your brain and just begin to copy, begin to imitate. You know, if you're learning how to whistle, whistle? I can't do it. But if you're learning how to whistle, you don't think about, I wonder what that person's saying with that whistle. You just copy it. And it's the very same when you're learning how to speak better. You just copy someone's voice. You imitate how they are speaking. Now, as well as imitating the sounds they're making, you have to also imitate their intonation. When we come to a second language, often what we hear is blah, 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 blah. And that intonation, the voice going up and down, is just as important as the words themselves. So this isn't just about a study of how someone sounds. It's about where their voice goes up and down. It's about how they don't leave spaces when they're talking. You can take a spoken bit of text, a clip of some kind, and begin to notice the pitch and tone when the voice rises and also when it drops. This is really, really important. So if you want to turn this into something academic, of course you can. But initially, you really need to be getting away from academia just so that you can really get into hearing the sounds of English. Another good practice would be to watch someone moving their mouth. British people speak more vertically than other countries. You'll see that we just pull our mouth down. We don't tend to move it so much from side to side. That's why many people think we look completely evil, because we don't really smile so much when we're talking, especially if you look at news presenters. So, we've spoken about a lot. Let's just summarize for a minute. Firstly, there's the sounds of English. Rather than study these academically, it would be much better if you just heard them. So even if you understand nothing, just listen and repeat. Try to make the same sounds that they're making. Now, when I say repeat, I'm not talking just about repeating in your own accent. I'm talking about imitating. That's point number one. Point number two is to listen to how the voice goes up and down, just to begin to notice how different that is from your language. Point number three, if you're listening to a podcast or something that isn't live, it may have been heavily polished, so you might not hear the person taking a breath. This podcast that you're listening to right now is completely natural. You can hear when I'm breathing, and you can also hear when I run out of breath. So, it would be a good podcast for you to practice with. You simply hear what I'm saying. You can breathe the same time as I breathe, and you can try to copy and imitate my voice. You can come back to this podcast again and hear when I'm putting my voice up and down, because it's really important. So, we spoke about the importance of studying the sounds. We've spoken about the importance of studying intonation. And you must also make time to look at your breathing. Most of us are so stressed these days that we don't really breathe out. We say everything we want to say and then we hold our breath inside because we're afraid to express ourselves. And that can cause us many more problems. So, I want you just to take a breath with me. Deep breath in and out. And get into this rhythm of breathing in, not holding your breath in, but pushing your breath out. And as you push your breath out, fill your breath with sound. And that makes the perfect expression. So there we are. Shadowing consists of imitating, but not words, just sounds. Looking at intonation, noticing how someone's voice goes up and down. And also looking at your breathing. So those are the main points for today. I hope you found this helpful. This is Good Friday, which is the first day of the Easter holidays. Many people are off work today and Monday. It's a time to think about Easter eggs, eating too much. But it's not quite the same as Christmas. This holiday is more, well, it's kind of a personal one. Many people choose to ignore it. It doesn't really have any function, but it does mark the changing of the seasons, and many people will be thinking about the garden, the good weather coming in, and the summer approaching. There we are. That's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's catch up soon. See you. Bye.